So for this example, we'll be taking Twitter, and Twitter in the sense we are not going to design an entire application. We'll be seeing what topic must be approached how. So for that, we'll be taking Twitter as an example. So let's get started. So the first thing is the interview gives you a question, and the first thing that you have to start is by asking questions. So the first question you can ask is, what are the features? So what are the features that this application can have? So for that features, there are two types. So first one is functional, and the second one is non-functional. So these both come under requirements. So requirements in the sense features, or what are the requirements for this application. So functional requirements is something that which is technical. So it's quite technical or related to your domain. Non-functional is non-technical, but it gives you an idea of what needs to be designed at this scale. So that's non-technical. So for this, let's say example, we have Twitter. So we can say features like let's say example, there's a like feature. So there's posting a tweet feature. So these are some features which are quite technical. And for non-functional requirements, there are examples like you can say latency or consistency. So these are something which is technical, but which is not quite technical with respect to this application, but it is very common to all the applications. So this can be applied to all the applications. So you can say you can ask questions like what is the latency that is allowed in this application. So the interviewer might say, let's say this when you post a tweet, it can get up to 100 milliseconds latency. So there can be a delay of 100 milliseconds after which it would be posted or it would be notified to the world. So the consistency is something like how much consistent the system should be. Like it can be very tight, it can be tightly consistent, or it can be lightly consistent, or something like that. So the next thing which you can ask the interviewer is the amount or at the scale which this application is going to run. Like you can ask, so this is the third point, you can ask like what is the scale or how many active users are there for this application. So the interviewer might say like 200 million active users. And you can also ask like, is this going to be a read heavy application or write heavy application? So the interviewer might say, so let's say it takes like 1 million writes per second, and let's say 10 million reads per second. So according to this, you have to design your database, and you have to you can say optimize your queries, or you can say design your system in a way in which it handles these requirements. In the feature section, you might have asked that are there attachments kind of thing, like can the user upload images or videos? And if it was an yes, then you can ask the question here like what's the amount of average amount of memory, or you can say images uploaded to this application. So you might say 10 GB per hour, or hour is actually more, you can say minute. So 10 GB per minute. This is in form of media. So we need to handle this. And you can also take like you can discuss with the interviewer like if he wants this to be a microservice application, or if he wants to be a single application, you can go with that as well. So the next thing is let's say system APIs. So this is quite important because this would be the way you would be defining you can say the system or the APIs which are needed. So you can ask what kind of APIs are needed. So the interviewer might say you may decide upon your requirements that was given earlier, or he might actually give you the APIs. So let's say you can post a tweet, and this will be taking user ID and some other things like that. Let's say text, attachments, something like that. And let's say view profile, that's another API, so which will take in a username or user ID, anything, because username is unique. We can take username, a username, and it returns the profile of a user. So these are the two system APIs that you need to implement, and while implementing this you need to take care of everything else. And the fifth one would be the DB design. So for these APIs, what kind of database you'd be using? So you can list the tables, like what are the tables that you'll be using, the relationships, and relationships in the sense the primary keys or foreign keys, everything like that. You can do this like in a trial and error format. Like you can design a table at first, then you can design another table. Let's say you have two tables, and then you said the interviewer wants to add another column, so he might ask you, where would you add this column? So you might need to add another table for that, or you can add it somewhere here. So the questions would be like kind of this, where you would be tested on your skills, if you are able to optimize these attachments or not. And the sixth one, which is the distribution mechanisms. So after designing all this, you can still think if it is naive, or you can say if it is very straightforward, or the interviewer might think this might not able to scale. So let's say, so what you might think is that, so you are posting a tweet, right? So this might not scale because there are 200 million active users, and for example a celebrity has, let's say, 50 million followers. When you post a tweet, then this tweet must be reaching this 50 million followers. So that's a huge load, right? So what you might do to handle this? So there are some techniques, like you can use caching, so you can use fan out. I'm not going in deep into this topic, so I'm just telling what to discuss, and what you might what are the types of questions that the interviewer might ask. So there is caching, fan out, and there is DB replication. So related to DB, there's replication, and there's sharding. So these are things if you need to do, you need to do, but if you don't need this, you need not to overcomplicate things, right? So it works this way. So there might be also questions like related sessions or authentications, if the user is much interested. So he might ask you what happens to the user's database data. So will you clean it up after the user exits, or will you clean it up after the session ends, or will you not clean it up at all? You will just use that data for something else. So something like that user might ask you, or he might even go into cryptographic questions, like what type of authentication you're using, and what are the tokens, and how are they secured, something like that. So the interview might go anyway, but most probably you will be driving the interview. And that's it for this video. I just wanted to show you what is the approach you might take to solve a question instead of just solving it randomly. So yeah, thank you for watching, and do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.